what do you need to see in terms of a project that you do for a financial model? Let's say you're working with a client and that client requires you to create a financial model. So what are the basic milestones that you have to be focusing upon? Basically, how do you approach that financial modeling assignment? If you need to initiate a discussion with your client, what should be the flow that you should follow for creating that model? So, number one, gather the information. See, I may be a financial modeler. I know how to create that model. I know how to incorporate the logics. But obviously, the client has to tell me what are the various inputs, right? So, when you're working with the client for development of a financial model, the very first step is ask relevant questions from the client so that you can gather the information. Now, one of the common mistakes that a lot of people tend to do is they kind of assume that the client knows what is the data point and what are the various information and data points which need to be shared with the financial modeler. But never ever assume that. You can kind of have some sort of a questionnaire which includes the list of questions and the data points that you need to collate. You can share that questionnaire with the client to gather the information, and then probably you can walk the client through with what those questions are. So that's going to help you to gather the information in a proper way, and it is also going to guide the end client to respond properly. So a couple of these questions could be so direct that you are asking for some data points, while some of these questions could be subjective because you need to ask those questions to gain some understanding about the business model. So it could be a mix of objective and subjective questions. We have to finalize the model structure in the next step. Meaning, once you've got the requisite data points and information from your client, you have to kind of agree with your client that how your financial model is going to look like. And if you recollect, when I spoke about the model map, I discussed this fact that you could have the input section to begin with, then working section, and finally the output. So now in this step, you could put the various line items that you wish to see in your P&L, balance sheet and the cash flow statement. Because honestly speaking, there could be so many items, but as an 80-20 rule or 90-10 rule, whatever modification you want to talk about, we need to focus more on the big ticket items, and the small items can be ignored. I would not say ignored it totally, but ignored in terms of deep dive, ignored in terms of the detailed information that we have to capture. So you might want to capture some top 5 to 7 expenses, and the balance expenses, which form just about 5-7% of the total expenses, could be 20 line items, and you can just club all of that. So as a next step, you have to agree with your client as to how your model strawman is going to look like. What is going to be the overall structure of the model, and client has to agree with it. Because unless you finalize the structure, you can't infuse life into it. And when I say infusing life into it, I'm referring to putting the formula in place. So agree with the client, get the model structure finalized with them. Next, in the last step, build the model. Once you've got the go-ahead from your client, put the model in place, put all formulae and logics in place, because that's what you have to do. So now you have the model structure with you. You also have the basic inputs and data points with you. Just incorporate that and get the financial model completed. And this is how the model building process is going to look like. You kind of start with gathering information, you finalize the structure, and then go to building the model, right? So these are the basic milestones that each one of us have to actually follow for working on any financial modeling assignment. Now, I would like to conclude our discussion by stating the 3 important skills that we must possess to be able to create a good financial model. And I would say these three skills are basically more like enablers so that we can work on the model. Business understanding is obviously an essential part. I haven't listed that out here, but because unless you have the business understanding, you can't proceed. So if you are going to work on a financial model for a hotel, then it is expected from us that we must understand the in and out about the hotel industry. So that's obviously the starting point for us. But at the same time, to be able to create a financial model, we need to have very good knowledge of MS Excel, because if you're going to have a model in Excel, then we must possess excellent knowledge of MS Excel functions, tools, and other functionalities that we have in it. Number 2, a bit of visual basic skills could also be useful. VBA macros could be used for some bit of automation, but we do not need to have an expert knowledge of VBA to be able to create a financial model. But having some knowledge of VBA could be useful sometimes if you're kind of automating a portion of your model, right? So some bit of VBA skills could also be helpful. And in VBA, we basically talk about automating tasks. We talk about having a code or a program which is written in Excel, which is going to execute something for us. And the last but not the least is financial acumen. Because if I don't know how P&L, balance sheet, and cash flow statements are created, I don't know how these are integrated, then I cannot create a financial model. So the financial acumen, which involves understanding of the P&L, the cost drivers, the revenue drivers, how the profit from P&L flows into balance sheet, how the balance sheet and P&L are going to be used for creating the cash flow statement. That level of financial acumen, that level of understanding is required. And once you have the mix of all of these three, then you can say that you have the prerequisites which you must possess for creating a financial model. All right. So that's it from my side on the financial modeling overview. Now we'll proceed to the next topic and see the additional areas related to the financial modeling. Thank you.